Welcome back to the channel, folks, and to another battle report. This is another remote game, and in this game it really is remote in the truest sense of the word, because I'm playing Soren from Burning Bridges, who's over in Iceland. Soren has been on the channel a couple of times before, but he's been really busy recently, and this is the first chance he's got to play in the last few months, because he's been helping to run Polar Bear. That's a tournament over in Iceland run by Burning Bridges. But let's find out a bit more about the event, what Soren's been up to, and what lists we're bringing tonight. So Soren, welcome back to the channel. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
And I hear you've been very busy lately organising another Polar Bear tournament. How did that go for you?
Well, as always, of course, it's a lot of organising the tournament. The reward is just so fantastic. We had people coming in from all over. We had Danes, we had people from Northern Ireland, a guy from Scotland, a guy from Swiss, Poland, Finland. So in a little community like Iceland's got 320,000 people. So having 14 players at a tournament was just huge. And we have it every second year. People looking forward to it. And this year we had it at Eastern Front, so people were bringing Soviets and Axis and Croatian allies. So it's just awesome. And we have a Saturday evening, we have a huge mega battle where we play desert, where we're split in two teams and everybody got a control of a tank platoon, and then we just go at it and try Icelandic food and get some beer and booze from all around the world. And people really seem to enjoy it. So even though it's hard, it's fun.
So it's a really good social event as well as a gaming and hobby event as well then, yeah?
It is. The main event, or the main goal with Polar Bear is for people to have fun. So when people start doing their lists, we always recommend to try something new, try something fun. Don't take your tournament win all, kill all list. Try something new. Take something you wouldn't normally bring, because if everybody brings something weird, nobody's gonna, power game, which makes the whole atmosphere really cool, because nobody's, I'm not gonna win. It really doesn't matter. And I always spice it with a little extra tournament inside. So this year we had who can kill the most elephants or heavies from the Germans, and who can kill most Soviet heavies. So maybe you're not in the top 10 or top 5, but you can still aim to kill the last Soviet heavy in your last game to go get a prize, which is a nice way to do it. And of course we have some great painters coming along. Yeah. Some of the most magnificent armies I've seen. So shout out to them. It's really fun.
Well, it sounds like it's an event that stayed popular over the years, and I think a lot of people were keen to get back to it after the C word, No need to mention it. But it sounds really good. And your next one will be in 2 years' time, is that right?
Yeah, if we can muster the energy and power to do it again. It's the gaming community in Iceland is fluctuating, so we've been up to 14 players or 15 players playing regularly once a week, and now we've got 4 playing once a week. So we're going up and down with family life and everything's going around, people starting new jobs. So if we have a player base in Iceland, we're going to do it again. And maybe even if we don't get a player base, because it's friends, new old friends coming in. It's just so fantastic seeing people again and chatting, talking, and drinking beer. And Iceland is a wonderful place. It's not like anywhere else in the world. So we go sightseeing with people and have a guided tour on Friday. So it's really something different. It's not a dreary city centre somewhere in the middle of Europe. It's glaciers and volcanoes and things. Yeah, it is different and great. And like all tournaments, all international tournaments, it's fun to see. Not that people are bringing medalists, but they are always thinking a little different than we do here in Iceland. And then the player group in Northern Ireland plays differently than the guys from Finland. And it's just great having it all together and great guys.
Well, so, it sounds really good. Great success. Sounds like you need a rest as well. So the best form of rest is having another game. So
yes, definitely.
So tonight you wanted to try out a Soviet Sapper list that you're building?
Yeah, it's a Soviet Sapper list. again, in Polar Bear, I saw a couple of guys playing Finns, and they had the close defense tank platoon, I think it's called, where everybody got a Panzerfaust. And all tank players that came against these Finnish guys stayed in a huge area around it with no tanks, because nobody wanted to get close to some Panzerfaust wielding maniacs. So I thought, okay, who else can have Panzerfaust? Well, the Sappers. They act as veterans, they're fearless, they can have 2 Panzerfaust, and they can have 2 RPGs. So 4 anti-tank weapons in assault. Oh,
scary.
Maybe that's not bad. And they have quite big platoons. So I thought, let's give it a shot. I tried Soviets before on attack, and I'm not good enough on that 3+ aggressive to get them into assault. I have to try again, and then all of a sudden I got 5 guys left, and everybody's got a machine gun, so it doesn't work. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe they can do it in defense. So I'm running an engineer sapper company. HQ, 2 platoons of 14 guys. The MG team, so 15 guys, and you can swap up to 6 teams in the list for flamethrowers and what's it called, PTRGs and Maxims and mortars. So it gives some flexibility. If I'm facing tanks, we can go this way. Infantry, we can go that way. And in the platoon as well are 6 OT-34 flame tanks. So this is not the best tank ever made, but it can deal with infantry. It has an anti-tank 9 gun. So if I keep them hidden, they might do some problems against medium tanks or infantry or lightly armored vehicles like British Recce or whatever you can come up to. Then in support, I have a BA-64 unit for the spearhead, because sometimes you really need it. I have 7 T-70 tanks, because it's front armor 4, so the enemy really has to dedicate anti-tank weapons shooting them. And so if they can keep somebody away from shooting at the Sappers, they're doing their job. And some Su-76s for artillery, 5 in a platoon for 7. They still can do dual purpose anti-tank. They have the anti-tank 9 gun, 5 power 3+, so they can help killing lightly armored vehicles and then take out enemy artillery. Hopefully, that's the plan. And finally, I have a partisan band, a rifle company with 23 stands that doesn't count for the reserves. So I only need to have 22 points in reserve. So these partisans are to hold an objective and be pushed forward, keeping some of the enemy army occupied. So they're not dangerous. They're skill 5. They won't assault, but there's a lot of them, and you have to dedicate something to shoot at it. And if they can buy me a turn or 2 of not shooting Sappers, you see, there's the theme around here. Don't shoot Sappers. Because the Sappers
keep them alive.
Game, hopefully, So if I can get you to shoot something else, you won't be shooting at Sappers. That will hopefully turn the game in my advantage. But let's see if I can do it. That's it. And,
well, I like the Sappers myself. If I had time, I would paint myself a Sapper formation. I like the look of them and like the camouflage and things. And they sound really tough with all that anti-tank. So it would be a bit scary. I'm going to be taking Romanians, a mixture of tanks and infantry. These are the better quality Romanians, not the ones you get in the cards. These are the ones that are in the book. But I'll show folks the list off screen, and we'll be ready to get started, folks. So Soren, it's game on.
Game on. Let's give it a go.
Right, folks, here's my Romanian force for this game. 2 formations plus support. First formation is a Panzer IV, that's T4 formation. That's it here. Second formation is infantry, and that's the support. These guys are rated as careful, confident, green. Everything else is careful, confident, trained. Now, the peasant army rule for the Romanians means that you roll a dice at the start for every unit, and there's a 1 in 3 chance, basically you roll a 5 or a 6, 1 in 3 chance of improving the skill rating. So these guys could go to veteran, and these guys could go to trained. And also, everything here has got a 5 up last stand. They're not really up for sticking out to the last bullet. If you get a 5 or a 6, you can also go to a 4+ last stand. Now these are the guys from the book, the Bagration Axis Allies. They are better quality units than you can get from the cards. The cards have got less good quality units, so this is quite a large force. You could get a lot more if you were going to use the aggressive, confident, trained or confident green troops that you get in those lists. So this formation has got company HQ and 2 platoons of 3, and then to back it up it's also got these armoured infantry. They play very much like the Germans in terms of the doctrine. They can do mounted assaults, but they don't have the stormtrooper rule, and they've got a Shrek attached to them. The core infantry formation's got 2 platoons infantry, company command. These have each got a Faust and a Shrek, 4 heavy machine guns, 3 mortars. And then cavalry, I always like to try and use cavalry, but they normally just get targeted. Everybody sees cavalry, they just want to kill them. So they normally get targeted and killed straight away. 3 armour cars, these have all got 20 mils. That's not the German armour car for unit. They've all got 20 mils and machine guns. And the 100 mils plus an observer. And that's an observer on foot. Holy smoke. And talking about smoke, these guys can do smoke. That's the only source of smoke in this list, though the Romanians do have other options. But there you go, folks. There's 2 formations, so 9 tanks, armoured infantry, some decent infantry with anti-tank, heavy machine guns, 2 templates, some scouts and some cavalry to try and mix things up. So quite an interesting and diverse force. The mission is Fighting Withdrawal. As you can see, the objective and deployment zones are quite simple, but the rest of this mission is quite complex. For instance, the attacker has to effectively win by the end of turn 7, or they're on a wing and a prayer for the defender to run away. The defender has got all of their assets on the table at the start, but they're going to start losing their assets due to casualties and withdrawals, so they have to make an impression on their opponent early on. You can see the special rules are ambush, minefields and strategic withdrawal. Strategic withdrawal is a complicated one there. Basically from turn 2, if you have 6 or more platoons, you're going to have to take one off, and then every turn thereafter 6 platoons is the critical number. When you hit the 6 platoons, you're going to be removing one. Now when I say when you hit, I mean if let's say you've got 5 platoons, you're not going to take one off, but you're going to gain a platoon counter, which will be added to for every subsequent turn where you have less than 6 platoons, meaning you're always going to be building up to a point where you're going to have to take a platoon off. Now, towards the end of the game, you might have too few platoons and not really have to worry about that, but as I said, because you're starting with everything on the table and losing forces as you go, you have to make an impression early doors to stand a chance of holding till the end. Right folks, we rolled for Fighting Withdrawal. So Soren has chosen to defend this side of the table. He's got a strong position in the town and some good cover out here. I placed one objective here and one over there in the town, as fast forward as I could and as far apart as I could. And then Soren has placed a couple of minefields to block the entrance to the town and a couple to protect the flank of the objective. Then he's put his pre-ranged in markers on hills to try and prevent me from hiding artillery behind it. I put mine over here to put this objective under a bit of pressure. Then Soren has placed one of his sapper platoons in ambush, so you can imagine that lot being unleashed. That could be quite nasty. And then another sapper platoon here. Lots of guys are contesting that just now, plus he's got a really strong in-depth position. His OT-34s his Su-76s. There's a bit of proxying in there, folks, apologies for that. T-70s, and then his big massive lump of infantry in here. Company command is over here. And then out in the flank, to cause me problems coming forward, he's got a platoon of armoured cars. And then me, let's see, I have got my armoured cars, my armoured infantry, my cavalry, ordinary infantry, platoon of Panzer IVs plus company command, so that's 6 altogether. And then beside that chimney there's the mortars, observer in the factory. Just behind them, out of sight, is, see if I can move the camera, is a heavy machine gun platoon and 3 more Panzer IVs. Behind that wood is the 100 mils and then another platoon of infantry. Now, the 100 mils, the artillery, the mortars, the scout cars and the infantry platoon in the woods, they all rolled in elite, which means they get better skill and an okay last stand. They're not on that 5+ last stand. So that's us, folks. We are set up, ready to go. I'm hoping for a bit of a bloodbath with so many infantry on the table here today. So we'll come back at the end of Romanian turn 1. Romanian turn 1. So there's a lot of movement. You've got to get going in this game, folks. You can't be cagey and just try and wear your opponent down, because they will... you have to have the objective captured by turn 8 or you've lost. So in terms of movement, the tanks all moved up. And then over here, there was a follow me from the infantry moving into the woods to get out of maybe line of sight of these heavy machine guns. Otherwise, everything tactically moved. And the heavy machine guns of my own moved into this factory here. And then in terms of shooting, those heavy machine guns opened up but didn't cause any casualties, fired here. The mortars ranged in here, as did my 100 mils. The mortars killed a couple of bases, 100 mils none, but they are at least ranged in. Over here the armoured cars managed to get one hit and killed an armoured car. And then between these 3 platoons, shooting at them, the guys on the hill were effectively shooting these guys in the open because they're on tall terrain, so it ignores the cover of the short. These guys were shooting at them when they were got on the ground, so they got no hits. They needed 6s. These guys, however, got 3 hits and 3 failed saves, 2 past firepowers. So that's it for me. Over to Soren for his turn 1. Soviet turn 1. In terms of motivations, these guys unpinned. We've got a company commander to help. That's the Sappers. He didn't get back in, the Su-76, even with the company command to help. Then in terms of movement, these guys have dashed over, trying to keep away from them as much as possible. They tactically moved over to engage the Panzer IVs. The armoured cars got nowhere to hide, so they're just making a wee barricade, hoping they don't get killed, and then they can block off any vehicular advances through there, unless I go through the woods, which is probably not going to happen. And then infantry are edging up out of the town to threaten this side of the table. So in terms of shooting, the the mortar from here ranged in the wood, didn't get anybody, but it's ranged in there now. The Su-76s and the T-70s fired at Panzer IVs. The T-70s needed a lot because of their slow fire rule to get hits at range. The Su-76s still needed to get 6s at range, but got a couple of hits, but I made the saves. And then these guys over here took 1 casualty from shooting from the, I think it was the heavy machine guns, and then 2 from the armoured cars. So it's 3 bases gone out with that platoon already, so that platoon's already taken a lot of casualties. And I think that was it. Yeah, these fired into the wood, and that's all, because most of the rest of these guys are short range, 4-inch for some machine guns. So over to me for turn 2. Romanian turn 2. There wasn't any motivations there, so in terms of movement, I've kept 1 platoon of Panzer IVs on the hill, another one's moved up. That's to get range on these OT-34s who are going to try and murder my poor guys round there. The infantry moved up a little bit to get within assault and Faust range of the armoured cars. So in terms of shooting, between them these two managed to kill three T-34s. And then these Panzer IVs over here managed to get the bailed out Su-76. Then over here, one armoured car got shot by a Faust, and the other one got bailed out by the armoured cars, so that died. The surviving armoured car died in the assault. And then here, the artillery still ranged in. It's not really doing much, to be honest. I think it maybe killed a heavy machine gun, and then another base of infantry died to heavy machine gun from there. So these guys are still very strong. And remember, there's a whole platoon of these guys left. Ah dear, I think I know where they're coming. But we'll see. Lots of places where they can go. So there's a lot of these sappers still in the game. So over to Soren for his turn 2, and I think, I'll double check, but I think he's maybe got to withdraw a platoon this turn. So it is Soviet turn 2. Now then, in terms of motivation, I think it was just these guys in the unpinned. They got the company commander to help them out. In terms of withdrawing units, the Su-76 is left, and they left in good spirits. In terms of moving, these T-34s moved, the OT-34s moved into the wood. A couple of infantry blitzed up to use their Fausts. These infantry, the partisans, have moved out to get cover behind that chimney and prevent me moving forward. The T-70s have moved up once again to get stuck in about me, getting some shots, but once again presenting a blocking force. And then in terms of shooting, this mortar managed to range in and get one hit but no kill, but a pin on my mortars. These guys needed a lot to hit. They were shooting here to try and whittle these guys down to support the infantry, as were two of them who could shoot past those moving infantry. And they missed, the T-70s missed, T-34s missed one. Oh no, T-34 got a hit, sorry, but I saved. And then one Faust managed to get a hit. I failed my save. The best I could get was a bail, and then it was a failed firepower, so one bailed out in the company HQ platoon. And there was no assault there because they blitzed to get into position. Those guys, it had been a demanding assault to actually make it in this turn. They've got a 6-inch assault range, these partisan type guys, but it's heavy machine guns in here and the tanks themselves for counterfire. So Soren's just chucking out all this blocking stuff that I've somehow got to get past. And don't forget, folks, he's still got another platoon of sappers in ambush. Romanian turn 3, so the mortar's unpinned, and the bailed out guy got back in. So in terms of movement, I moved one Panzer IV to get as much shots into the OT-34s as possible. The other one stayed put, and then down here it was just charge. We'll see what happens. Some infantry I've moved over there to try and protect those Panzer IVs. And that was it in terms of movement. So in terms of shooting, two half-tracks managed to get one of those guys in the open, and his machine gun split their fire across here, and they managed to get the guy in the open and a dug-in guy. And then I've rearranged in my mortars and my artillery over here, and got a few hits but no kills. And then these Panzer IVs fired at the T-70s, got a couple of kills. Then over here, between them, it took all of those Panzer IVs to fire to kill two and leave one active. And then I launched an assault with a Shrek and a Faust. And me and Soren were talking about this. I went in at the side, but lessons from the front, OT-40, the flamethrower is forward firing, but lessons from the front states if you start your assault in the front arc, then you don't get the benefit of getting them in the side and avoiding counterfire. So 3 shots went in. I was lucky, only one died, and I managed to hit him in assault with a Faust, which at the very least is going to bail him and therefore end the assault with him dead. And a wee consolidation move. That turn took ages. There was a hell of a lot of dice rolling getting done, but these guys are still very much on the objective. The other platoon's not even been touched yet, and he's still got a big chunky platoon in ambush. I think I'll be seeing them soon. Soviet turn 3. So no withdrawals this turn because of the smaller number of platoons that's left, so one will go next turn. And the ambush arrived pretty much as I expected in here to protect the objective and ward off this flank attack. In terms of other movement, these infantry have moved out. Kind of thought they might when I've come up to try and protect them, so there's them flying down there. The T-70s have moved up to get shots on armoured cars and half-tracks, but remember they're slow firing. And then that was it, so it was on to shooting. Over here, these guys, the partisans plus them and them, got a couple of hits, that was it, on infantry but no kills. The T-70s didn't get any hits. This ambush popped here. Well, first of all, heavy machine gun killed a couple of bases there. The mortar ranged in, again, re-ranged in, not re-ranged in, repeat bombardment, got a hit but no kill. I managed to make my reroll saves, but they pinned again. And then this platoon, these two heavy machine guns fired at cavalry, and the light machine gun joined in. And then the mortar tried to join in as well, but not with as much success. 3 cavalry bases got killed from the machine gun shooting. These guys ran in to shoot the guy in the wood, and 9 dice and they all missed. But then they just ran in, did it the old-fashioned way, and killed him in the assault, consolidated to over here. These guys thought about assaulting, but there's just too much counter fire, especially because there's heavy machine guns here, so they're just staying put. And that was it. But basically these guys lost, this platoon's down to 1, and the cavalry have lost 3 of their number already. And the ambush is here, so everything that is going to arrive has arrived, and it's still quite a lot. Romanian turn 4. In terms of motivation, the mortars unpinned, sorry. The sole survivor for this platoon unpinned and stayed. The cavalry unpinned but backed off because it's a bit of a death alley for them there because of those heavy machine guns. In terms of movement, these guys over here tried to dig in and didn't, so they stayed on the ground. The Company HQ have mounted up into the spare capacity in the half-tracks because they're very exposed there. One armoured car stayed put to move to get shots down at the T-70s. So the armoured cars, they couldn't do much other than get a bail, but I tried it and no luck. But these Panzer IVs plus 1 from over there managed to finish off that platoon. Over here there was a bit of shooting with some hits, only 1 base killed. And then my mortars managed to get 3 bases that turn. That was the best turn I've had yet, including the single mortar. And then my howitzers ranged in over here and got 1 base of infantry. The survivor from this platoon was on a suicide mission, so he ran in, shot a base, killed it, went in for the assault, 7 dice of counterfire, 5 hits, and he failed to do his save, so he was a goner. So I could have just left him, but what's the point of that, folks? You've got to see, he might have been a hero. So I've now got to get my skates on and try to make some forward progress. It's turn 5 next turn, so there's not a lot of turns left, and there's a hell of a lot of sappers left. Soviet turn 4, no platoons being removed this turn, but 1 will need to be removed next. But it's getting right down to the wire next turn. So in terms of movement, a couple from this platoon of, in terms of motivation, everything was fine. Then a couple from this platoon have tried to move over in to support that platoon. They're moving in a template though. Then over here there's a bit of movement. He was hoping to get my guys pinned, but he missed by 1. Killed 2 bases though, which was good. And then this single mortar managed to pin and kill a heavy machine gun. That was going to help with the assault, but he didn't quite have enough, he felt, Soren, to put it in. And then everything else is basically hunkering down now, because now it's just about forcing me to come close so he can kill me with all his nasty assaulty stuff. So, over to me for my turn 5. Romanian turn 5. Heavy machine guns didn't unpin. I think that was the only motivation I had to do. So in terms of movement, I moved Panzer IVs out there, and then Panzer IVs up here, and then cavalry. They can motor. They have to stay right on the edge of the table because of the 8-inch standoff from enemy troops when you're dashing, but they can really motor when it comes to it. Everything else stayed put. In terms of shooting, I lifted my bombardment that was here over onto here. Heavy machine guns managed to get one of these two from this platoon that moved up. Let me think now. There was a hell of a lot of shooting here from a lot of things. I can't quite remember who killed what, but 3 bases got killed from this platoon from a combination of mortars, howitzers. These got lots of hits. I don't think they've necessarily got any kills, but there's 3 down, 1 heavy machine gun and 2 ordinary bases down. And then over there, I've not actually put the counters down, there was 1, 2, 6 bases went over there to machine gun fire. But as Soren says, these guys are doing exactly what he needs them to do, which is holding the flank. And if they do get killed, there's just as many guys at the back waiting to take their place. So that was it. I'm now got to try and come in, and for every, even when these guys are whittled down, they're still going to pack a huge punch where they could have like 2 Panzerfausts and 2 anti-tank grenades, and my guys aren't exactly highly skilled in assaulting, so it could get very interesting. Soviet turn 5, everything was fine for motivations. In terms of withdrawing units, the company command left, which was definitely the best unit to take. It gives them rerolls, but these guys are fearless. And you're not going to lose a base of maybe, a unit of maybe 5 bases for to keep a reroll of 2 bases, especially when you consider how they're equipped, these sappers. And then in terms of other movement, an assault, these guys ran over from here to assault the factory, leaving 1 base to slow down once again any movement over that side. And in terms of shooting, they tried to range the mortar in, but didn't. There was a wee bit of shooting from these guys, but nothing significant. The significant thing is the assault. In he went and lost 1 on the way in and killed 1, and then I broke off because my guys are just heavy machine guns with no great skill set in assaulting, so we'll just have to leave. To be honest, I don't really think the heavy machine guns will necessarily have much more to do in this game. Anyway, I've got to start moving now, folks, because I'm starting to run out of time, and there's still at least 4 Panzerfausts and 4 anti-tank grenades potentially coming at me next turn. Romanian turn 6, so motivations were fine that turn, including the heavy machine guns for an unpin and a last stand. So in terms of movement, first of all, I brought these infantry over. I'll have to do a consolidation move with them. I brought them over into the factory to have a go at the guys who captured it. I brought my cavalry around the back here. These guys dismounted and moved up. Panzer IVs moved up, they once stayed put. And then it all went a bit mental for shooting and field saves for Soren. These guys here, I think it was pretty much all artillery. 4 guys for this platoon went. And then over there, a couple of guys got killed by heavy machine guns, and that survivor got shot up there. And then I went in for an assault over there and killed the guy, the survivor. He was in there. The only assault I could manage here was against the mortar, which I managed, and then that just, there wasn't anything within 4 inches, so that ended the assault. 1 guy had to pull back. So I think we worked out there's 4 from 1 platoon and 5 from another alive as I come in for what looks like it's going to be one last crazy turn. So I've just got a consolidation move I've got to take with those guys, and then it'll be over to Soren. So folks, this turn, as far as motivation goes, everything was okay for the Soviets despite the loss of the company command. In terms of movement, these guys are bombing it along there, leaving a couple beside the objective. In terms of shooting, there wasn't a lot. These guys, they got 5 hits in the end from light machine gun, and heavy machine gun. Enough to kill one and pin them, which Soren's hoping to at least take them out of the assault that's coming in next turn, and the guys are running over. And that's it for shooting, really. So I've now got to come in and make it happen. Romanian turn 7, so let me see. There was a few shenanigans over here, but it's not really important, just try to manoeuvre. I manoeuvred for they didn't unpin, which was, I could have used them. So in terms of movement, I was just getting ready for assaults. And then lots of shooting beforehand, and once again my artillery was really good, and a few other things beside. Basically, before the, let me see, this platoon at the front was down to 1 base before the assault phase, and then the other platoon was down to 4, and they went in for the assault, killed 1 base, and then, Soren, you didn't roll your saves again. Roll your saves for your
Oh, for my assault stuff.
Yeah, it's 3 to make.
3.
Yeah, I clobbered you. No.
4, 4, and 1.
Alright, okay. And the Sappers have got to save, we've got to try and remember that. Anyway, there are a couple of rounds of combat, and I ended up killing the last guys out of that platoon apart from one. He had to break off. Then I tried to assault here, but it's going over the edge, going over the bloody edge. And one got stuck and one got killed by a Faust. That's the thing, there's Fausts everywhere here. Any other assaults I had planned couldn't go in because of the absence of the target bases. They were all killed. So Soren's got last stands to do on these guys, and he has to be able to contest this objective in a meaningful way as well. We'll see what can be done. Right, there you go then, Soren. A hard-fought game for the Romanians. But how did you feel your list played, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I love it, and but still have a hard time just sitting and taking the punishment, because I'm used to playing Brits and Americans and Germans, and I just plucking away stands and thinking, I still have a bunch left, it's really hard. And with all the tanks getting hit on 3 pluses, well, people just that have seen the battle report can see that they die pretty quickly if they're not long and concealed.
Mm-hmm.
The second you got on the hill and targeted the Su-76s, well, dead. So stay out of range, or I still have to figure it out. And I have a lot of problem handling the OT-34s, because they have a shitty main gun, and they can do some work if I can get into a knife fight, but sitting at long range with your anti-tank 11 gun, I'm not going to win that. So I have to figure out how can I get them hidden and then pull them out at the right time, because turn 2 is not the right time, or turn 3. Maybe I should just let you come a little bit closer. Of course, the worst thing happened, that you got your mortars and your observer and your 100mm guns.
Too many veterans.
Veterans. That didn't help. Because you just shifted back and forth those templates and just kept killing me. If you had failed once or twice, or I've been able to pin down you or something like that.
I unpinned my mortars 3 times, I think.
Yeah.
You know, that made a big difference, because it meant I could keep the pressure on in a time-limited game. So I was a bit lucky with my artillery, but I have to say that in recent games, my artillery's it's over-delivered far too much, you know, so I've been riding my luck a little.
Yeah, or maybe you're just good at using it right.
Well, there is that, but the dice I must be terrible using my tanks then, because my anti-tank fire in most games is bloody awful. But no, I think that was a good list. The infantry platoon, the partisans were really hard to handle, especially with my list stretched out, and I couldn't ignore them, or you would have gobbled up all my artillery, my mortars.
Yeah.
So they did a good job.
It is a big blob, and I don't expect it to normally be able to hold an objective. I'm thinking of if you can push them forward, a couple of teams at a time, and make you deal with it. Maybe assault them, maybe shoot them. So, of course, this is one of the defensive missions where it's stretched out.
Mm-hmm.
If we get half of the missions are played short edge.
Mm-hmm.
So, imagine having a short edge with a 23 partisans in front, and then 2 Sapper platoons of 16.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
could be quite a tough list, and in the moment where you have to, with your tanks, assault those Sappers with their Faust and their anti-tank grenades, it only takes 4 of them to be left alive at that point for them to be still optimal in assault, because they will cause a lot of damage to tanks in assault.
They will. Hitting a 3+ with the anti-tank 12 and anti-tank 10, even heavies like Tigers have to be careful. Because how often do you see a 5 Tiger tank platoon assaulting? You normally see 2, or you see 3, or it's not that hard to kill them if you go in with anti-tank 12 to the side, hitting on 3s. So, but you did it. You timed it perfectly. You had 8 turns to get me off the objective. On turn 7, you would whittle me down and pushed in the assault.
Yeah.
Of course, I need to remember I can use smoke with the Sappers, and I got body
That's the thing as well with new lists, is actually read the stat line, read the cards. I do it myself and forget all about it. But no, that was a good game, and hopefully a good tryout for your Sappers, so you can tweak the list as required, or tweak the way you play them. But once again, it was really good having you on the channel, Soren. I always learn a little bit more about the rules and about list building and so on when you play a game, so thanks very much for coming along.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, well, when I are arranging my next lot of games, I shall definitely be giving you a shout, and who knows, in 2 years' time, if there is another polar bear, you never know.
You never know.
As long as you've got someone for me to put my wee wife when I'm away playing with my toy soldiers, then it's probably a goer.
Yeah, well, the plane goes to Scotland. Well, so I'll just see you sometime in Scotland.
You never know.
You never know.
Right, well, there you go, folks. Thanks to Soren. Thanks to everybody for watching. As always, thanks to all the subscribers. And to anyone who's not subscribed, if you could do so, it'll help us build the channel. And if you hit the bell button, then we'll definitely see you on the next one. Cheers, son.